Hey, hello, back again. Of course, subscribe, click the bell for notifications of new uploads, like the videos, follow me on Twitter. Okay, this is the previous video was the previous redo was measurements and where and how to take the measurements. Now we are going to use those measurements, but first there is the math. Always have to do your math before you start making patterns. Always. That's if you're making from scratch. I'm not talking to the people who just use patterns and, cut and sew. This is people who make the patterns from scratch. Even sometimes, if you're going to use a pattern, say it's a small pattern, and you want to make it for a larger size, well, then you're going to have to do the math. And this is it, right? What I did was I took measurements that I'm kind of used to working with in my experience as a custom clothing, custom tailoring, custom clothing designer. That's what I would say. Because tailoring is something actually different from what I do. I do a little bit of tailoring, but not too much. But all right, if you were to do a Google search, image search for size and measurement charts, right? You'll get all of these different charts, and they tell you the size and what the measurements would be, right? I went to this one because it was basic, clean, easy to understand, uh, you know, and I just picked, like I said, the sizes I'm used to, 38, 30, 45. But you see their sizes, right? 14 is this, 12 is that, 16 is that, you know. Well, yeah. So these measurements here will actually be, I think this was my size 10 or 12, my size 10, 12. This is what I would use for my size 10 and 12, okay? But that's just me. Anyway, 38, 30, 45, right? So as the math goes, you would divide the sizes by 2, right? And you get a number. Then for the chest front, you will move a half inch from the back to the front, or just move a half inch from one number to the other number. The larger number will be your front, the smaller number will be your back, because you have the boobs and your chest is on the front. So there's more on the front than it is on the back. That's why you do that, right? You would end up with 19 and a half for the front, 18 and a half for the back. There is a clear 1 inch difference. That's pretty good, right? And you divide both those numbers by 2, and you come up with the number where we're actually using the numbers we will be using for our bodice, right? Which would end up with 9 3/4 and 9 1/4. All right, 9 3/4 is half of 19 and a half. 9 1/4 is half of 18 and a half. All right. Same thing with the waist. 15. Move a half inch from one number to the other. The larger number will be the front. The smaller number will be the back. This is for the waist. Why? Of course, you have the belly. The belly is on the front, and the back you don't have much. There's more on the front than it is on the back. Of course, this is not universal truth for all people, that is, in all sizes, of course, but where I'm just dealing with basic common stuff. When you get to those odd numbers or odd fits, well, you're going to have to adjust your the half inch that you move, 1/4 inch, 3/4 of an inch. you're just gonna have to adjust it for your particular client. Now for the hip, it's the reverse. You have more on your back than you do on your front. Your butt is on the back part of your body. So you move the half inch to the larger number will be the back, and the smaller number will be the front for the hip. Now, but it says here I move a half inch to the back, which is just moving a half inch from one number to the other, and you will get, originally it would have been 22 for the front and 23 for the back. But I use this number because it's more bum. There's more bum on the back, more junk in the trunk, as they say, or whatever. Back they used to say anyway. So, which means the number should be a little bit more bigger than 1 inch. So I moved a whole inch. We'll make it 1.5 inches. So you just take 1 inch from one number, add it to the other, and you will get 21 and 1/2 for the front and 23.5 inches for the back. Divide them by 2, you come up with 10 3/4 and 11 3/4. That's 1.5 inches difference. It's a whole 1.5 inches difference because it's more on the bum. All right, that's just a little something I do, and I find out it fits pretty good. It fits pretty good. All right. Okay, now that you've done your math, we get to the next part. All right, you have your paper that you got from Staples, or you ordered it from online. In another video, I put up a link. I should have got that link, but maybe I'll find it and put it in the description for you for another place online where you can actually buy the pattern maker paper with the dots. That's pretty good because it has the dots to help you. You cannot make a crooked line with this paper. All right, and if you're making crooked lines with the dotted paper, check yourself. All right. So, all right, we have our paper that we got Staples from online, wherever. All right, you get your piece that you need. You only need like a yard, a length of paper for the bodice. All right. At the top of the paper, it don't have to be at the very, very top. It can be 2 inches from the top. Just leave that space. You might want to make notes or something up there. So 2 inches from the top. And you draw it straight across from one edge of the paper to the other. Straight line. Use your L square. Your see-through L square. Right? And then next line. 2 inches from the edge is the full sloper length measurement. Square down off the starting line, right? This is how this will now be the center back, right? So after you draw this line going straight across, you square another line 2 inches from the edge going straight down using your L square. That line will be the center back. We starting with the back, of course. I learned that at FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology. Starting patterns, making your slopers on starting patterns, start from the back. Okay. Now, that will be the full sloper length. That's the measurement we took from the neck and shoulder corner, going over the chest, the apex, to the waistline. That was the full length sloper measurement, right? So that's what this line will be. And after you get that line, you'll square a line at the bottom of that, at the end of that line. That line you're going to square over. That's going to be the waistline, which is half of the chest measurement, right? To be exact, this number here, right here, the back, 9 3/4, and this number here, 9 1/4 for the back, 9 3/4 for the front. Those two numbers added together is what this line will be, which is the same as half of the whole chest measurement. Okay? We're going to get to where one ends and the other begins as we go along, of course. Next. Okay. Now, that line, that third line, which became the waistline, remember, okay, this line here, it becomes the waistline. The other line is the center back, as we said, right? From that waistline, going up on the center back line, you're going to mark where the center back stops. Remember the center back from the center of the back going to the neck, to the bone on the back of the neck. That was our center back. So we take that measurement and we put it here from the bottom going up, from the waistline going up, and we mark where it stops at, right? And this line here, which is the neckline, right? On this neckline, I'm sorry, I was reading it, is 2.5 inches from the center back line on our starting line. From our center back line on the starting line, you mark 2.5 inches. I do this because I want my sloper necks to be kind of small. Why? Because when you're making a patterning for a client, of course, each client have different neck sizes, right? I actually started this because of my men clients. When I'm making dress shirts for them, they want that collar to fit on their neck, but not to choke them. They don't, a lot of men, especially the larger size men or men who work out and have large chests, when they buy a shirt, that collar be massive. I mean, it'd be too big and it looks really sloppy on them, especially if they wear a tie. You know, it looks sloppy. They don't like that. They want that collar to be fitted to their neck. So I made my sloper necks small because it is very easy to make your neck bigger on paper or on fabric. All right. You can, once you cut something, especially on fabric, on paper, you can tape paper back on it and make it small again, but on fabric you cannot do that. So I'd rather start off with a small neck and then have to make it bigger, which is much easier than cutting a neck and it's too big for your client and you have to cut a whole new piece of fabric. And anyone who's making custom clothing know sometimes you do not have enough fabric. You have to stretch your fabric, get the most you can out of your fabric, right? Okay. Next is the shoulder line. We do half of the shoulder. Your shoulder is, from 16 to 18 inches for your shoulder. From the center back line on our starting line, we mark half of our shoulder, right? We mark where half of that shoulder is, and then from that mark we square down 2 inches. It can be 2.5 inches because when we do the shoulder slope, it's going to touch this extended part of the line, right? Remember, the front shoulder slope and back shoulder slope, 2 different numbers, so they're going to touch differently on those lines. This extended line is 2.5 inch line, 2 inches, 2.5 inch line. All right, because everyone has different shoulders. Some have them straight, broad shoulders, and they almost square. Then you have some people who have really shoulders who are just slanted down, almost like the tip of an arrow, right? Okay. So we're clear on that. Now, the waistline, right, which we started, I said it's half of the total chest measurement, which is true. That's why I said we're going to mark it later on, because it's going to become the waistline, not the measurement of it, but that's where we're going to put our marks on that line for our waist. And we're going to copy that same line, which was half of the total chest measurement. We're going to copy it 9 inches above, going up from that third line from here, right? We started here with it. Now we're going to copy it 9 inches above that. Then it becomes the chest line, right? Same lines, same distance, same length, but one is going to be for the waist, where we're going to mark for all our waist measurements, and the other is we're going to mark for the chest, right? Clear. Okay, the next part. Oh, I should have skipped this because I just explained it verbally. Center back mark, right? Neck mark, 2.5 inches from the center back line. Shoulder mark, half of shoulder measurement, squared down 2 inches. Chest line, waistline. We clear. Yes, sir. Next part. Our shoulder slope. Okay, remember when we did the shoulder slope measurement, we put the number 1 at the center of the back, where the waist would be, and we took the measuring tape up to the shoulder bone for the back slope. So you do the same thing with your yardstick. You put the number 1 here, this corner, center, back, and waist, and you move the number, you move your ruler, your yardstick on this line to touch this line until you get to your back shoulder slope number. So if your back shoulder slope, for example, is 18 inches, well, then you would make sure your 1 is here, and you move the ruler, the yardstick, till it touches this line at 18, and you mark it wherever it touches the line, and you mark it. Sometimes, that's why I say make the line 2 inches, 2.5 inches, square it down, because when I first learned this, they didn't tell us to do enough, and we would always have to extend the line just so we can hit our mark, touch the line with that number. All right, so again, so if it's not long enough, you make it long enough until you get your back slope number touching this line, and you mark it like so. On your chest line, of course, you get your your back chest measurement, the number, whatever your back chest was, half of the back chest number, right? We did our math, and you mark it from the center back. You measure over and you mark where it is, right? And then, of course, what's left over should be your front. So you check your measurements from wherever you put your back chest mark number, right? From that point to the end of your line should be the front chest measurement. If it's not, make your corrections, okay? And you see this line here is already squared it ahead of time. That's because that's going to be your center front, and it should be straight and it should be square. So make sure everything is squared with your see-through L square. Okay, next we're going to use the hip curve, right, to complete the neck, the back of the neck. And when you use your hip curve, all right, let me see. I gotta show you which part. I really want you to see it. All right. And I like the see-through one, of course. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go to the page. Yeah, that's cool. It's cool. Who is this? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to go that far. All right. You're going to use this part right here. This tip part. This tip part. See the zero right there? All right. So usually the back of the neck, no bigger than 3 inches. We're dealing with half of it. So the back of the neck, 6 inches for most men, some women. Back of the neck for the majority of women is 5 inches, right? Which would be 2.5, right? You see this here, right? So you would take and put your 3 right there on your center back mark, and you will move it around until it touches your neck mark on your starting line, and you would make that curve. Now, sometimes, because remember, this is a smaller, we're making the neck a little smaller than what it actually is, so we can make adjustments to our patterns and our garments when we cut them out, right? So when you put the 3 here, the 0 may and may not touch right there. Depends on whatever size you're dealing with, right? So do not worry about that. But make sure you do start with the 3 here, because that part of it is a little straight and you see it curves up. You want that straight part to be at this section here. You want this little beginning part right there to be straight and then curve up to that mark. So your 0 does not have to touch here exactly. Don't get bent out of shape if it does not. But make sure it's straight. Even though this right here is curved down like that, you do not want it to look like this. You want it to be coming out here straight and then curving up. Okay? Then from this neck mark to your shoulder slope mark on this extended line, you just make it a straight line. We are going to use the hip curve for it, but it's a very slight curve, right? But for now, just make it straight. Use your yardstick or a ruler and make that a straight line from your neck mark to your shoulder slope mark there. Okay? Now we clear. Next. All right, you see what you got here, your neck and your shoulder. And you take your hip curve again, and we're going to use this tip right here again, right? But this time, you see the 9 is around here, 0 down there. Now, with the back, most of the time when I do it, it's perfect. I will put the 9 right here at the shoulder, end of the shoulder right there. And when I move around, I try and get the 0 to touch my back chest mark on the chest line. Of course, all people do not fit the same. Bodies, shapes is different. So don't worry if the 0 does not touch that line. But you must, I would always suggest put the 9 there and curve it around and move it around to your ruler touches that mark, your chest mark, your back chest mark, and make that curved line. All right? For the front, we're going to do it a little bit different, but for now, for the back, that's what you would do. All right? If it confuses you, just do it the opposite way. Put the 0 right here at the chest mark, and you just draw the curved line up to there. That's it. If it confuses you, just put 0 here at your chest mark and move your hip curve until it touches that and draw your line. Done, right? All right, we can skip this because I'm describing everything to you myself, so a lot of this reading is not necessary. Forget that 7/8 stuff. I just told you the best ways to do it. All right. Now for the waist. All right. We're going to put a dart, right? We're going to put a dart in it. So on that chest line, from the center back, right? From the center back going towards our side seam, right? Going this way. You're going to mark 3.5 inches. 3.5. So from the center back line to this mark is 3.5 inches. So you just mark it on the chest line, right? Now on the waistline, well, all right, what you can do is once you make this mark, right? Because I'm trying to make it very simple and easy. Once you make this mark, you square a line straight down with your see-through L square, and you square a line straight down and touch the waistline. Once you do that, on either side, on both sides, on each side of that line, you mark a 1/2 inch away. 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch there, right? You got that, right? We're going to get to this. Don't worry about this. Right now, I want you to focus on the dart. So this mark on the chest line is 3.5 inches away from the center back. Square the line straight down from the chest line to the waistline, and then on the waistline, on each side of that squared line, you're going to put a 1/2 inch away a mark and a mark. It's going to become our dart. So, and now on the line, right at the top part here, come down 3/4 of an inch. You're going to make a mark, and that's where you're going to start to draw your dart. Is it in? Do I have it in next? Do I have it on the next one? All right, I didn't have it there. All right, but okay. On that line that you squared down 3/4 of an inch away, on the line, you're going to make a little mark, and then you're just going to, from that mark to these 1/2 inch marks, you're going to draw a line, a straight line. So this 1/2 inch mark from the line here, which is 3/4 of an inch away from the chest line, on your squared line, you're going to draw a line here and a line there, straight line. That's the dart, right? Now, then you're going to measure. I don't want you reading that. Oh, what happened? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Because I don't want you reading that and not listening to me. So we got all that, right? Now, on the waistline, we know what our back waist number is because we did our math, right? We did our math, right? Okay. So you measure from this mark, which is the left side of the dart, the inside of the dart, going towards the center back. We measure from here to the center back line. Whatever that number is, we subtract it from our back waist number, and then whatever's left over will be the rest of the waist that we have to put back. So on the other side, from this mark here, right, which is the side part of the dart. From this mark over, we put the rest of that number. We subtracted this space here from our back waist number, and we're gonna, whatever's left over from our back waist number, we're gonna continue from this mark over and make a mark, and then just draw a straight line from our back chest measurement to there. That will complete our back sloper. Now, me explaining this took whatever amount of time because I can't see the clock, right? But when you actually do it and get used to making these, very fast, very simple, very easy, right? Matter of fact, I'm going to stop right here, and then we're going to go to the next part, which will be the front sloper, okay?